Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. This is the mop-up. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Yesterday, we had horrible rain in New York City, hot rain, up to 4, that's Chicago, up to 4 inches of flash flooding south of Houston Street. It was disgusting. It was hot and wet. It cleared the poison coming down from Canada, where smoke from Ontario's nearly 200 wildfires are turning the sky orange in many parts of the United States, like Chicago. And yeah, so the rain was kind of welcome, but it was not just torrential, it was hot rain and humid, and it makes you stupid. I went outside to buy a newspaper yesterday after the rain subsided, and the heat with the humidity smacked me in the face. And the first thing I thought was, oh, this is why people from Louisiana shouldn't be trusted with the vote. This is why Speaker Mike Johnson is so effing stupid. Well, the New York Times is now reporting, yes, this is why he's so stupid. The New York Times reporting the FBI will no longer investigate shootings of protesters or immigrants by ICE agents. According to the Times, it is now FBI policy for the Department of Homeland Security to determine whether an ICE or Border Patrol agent was justified in discharging their weapons and whether that agent was telling the truth when that agent claimed they acted in self-defense. So far this month, ICE agents claiming self-defense shot and killed 2 immigrants. Neither one of them had a warrant out for their arrest. They weren't targets of any immigration investigation. According to the New York Times, since Trump's return to the Oval Office, nearly 24 people have been shot by immigration agents, 6 of whom ended up dead. Nearly all of those shot were inside their vehicles, and nearly all of the immigration agents who discharged their weapons claimed they acted in self-defense. Alex Preddy was killed by Border Patrol agents, not ICE officers, and he was shot on the street. Now, the official policy for the Department of Homeland Security, which after each shooting automatically insists the victim's car had first been weaponized, the Department of Security, Homeland Security, will make the official determination as to whether or not the ICE or Border Patrol agent was truthful when they claim to have acted in self-defense. Border czar Tom Homan appearing on the Sunday talk shows to announce that moving forward, when a team of ICE agents perform a traffic stop, at least one of the agents will now be required to wear a body camera. So Homan is a liar, and he told 2 very large lies on Sunday. The first lie was, oh, I welcome body cams because they always end up exonerating the ICE or Border Patrol agent. Well, that's a lie. Practically every time we gain access to either body cam footage or surveillance video of a shooting involving immigration agents, ICE and Border Patrol, it always reveals the Department of Homeland Security and the agent who fired the shot is lying when they claim that the shots were fired in self-defense. Always a lie. Always a lie. And, you know, if you have I always welcome corrections. You know where to reach me. So if you have proof that this isn't true, we triple check here. If you watched last week's show, I did 3 shows last week, and all 3 of them I told you that an ICE agent has never, ever been shot and killed by an immigrant they were trying to arrest. It has never happened, and I invited you to correct me. Nobody could correct me. ICE was established in 2003. In its 23-year history, not a single ICE agent has ever been shot and killed by an immigrant they were trying to arrest. Not a single ICE agent has ever been killed after getting run over by an immigrant who weaponized their car or simply tried to drive away and accidentally ran over that ICE agent. And despite the lies from Border Czar Tom Homan, there is not a single body cam video of an ICE agent shooting someone, and that video turning out to be exculpatory evidence. In other words, it's presented as evidence to clear the ICE agent for shooting. Anytime ICE agents are captured on video discharging their weapon, the video every time clearly indicates that those ICE agents are lying, and Homeland Security is lying when they claim the agent discharged the weapon acting in self-defense. There doesn't exist one single video of an ICE agent shooting, shoving, or injuring a U.S. citizen or immigrant without that video showing the ICE agent exerting unnecessary, lethal, dangerous, or deadly force. In November of 2025, then Border Commander, little tiny Greg Bovino, who at the time was running immigration operations in Chicago, Greg Bovino admitted under oath that he lied under oath. He admitted this to federal judge Sarah Ellis. I invite you to Google this. Greg Bovino admitted to federal judge Sarah Ellis in Illinois in November of 2025. He admitted, yes, I lied under oath when I testified under oath that it was necessary for me to fire tear gas at protesters marching in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood on October 23, 2025. So Bovino, very tiny half man, he originally testified and lied that he was forced to fire the tear gas after the crowd became unruly, but later video clearly indicated that it was a peaceful crowd, and Greg Bovino decided to be a little prick. Well, he was born a little prick and with a little prick, and he decided to fire tear gas. And when the video showed that, yeah, he had to go before Judge Sarah Ellis again and admit, yeah, I lied. So, yeah, Judge Sarah Ellis, she you can read her ruling, and she was going to make a criminal referral, a perjury referral against Gregory Bovino, but it would have gone to Pam Bondi. So it would have died there. So that's the first lie that Tom Homan told on Sunday, that video always clears the ICE or border agent. The complete opposite is true. When ICE agents are caught on video, they always demonstrate a lack of training, intelligence, character. They always reveal themselves to be frightened little men with unresolved childhood trauma, and that trauma emerges through their inability to control their rage. The other lie Tom Homan on Sunday told is he would have fitted ICE agents with body cams, but the Democrats held up the funding when they shut down the Department of Homeland Security earlier this year. That is an effing lie. I don't curse on the show because if I did, I wouldn't stop. Tom Homan is an effing liar, okay? Democrats shut down funding for ICE because ICE agents weren't being ordered to wear body cams. Tom Homan is a liar. Now, the 2026 budget, we're living in the 2026 budget. It ends on October 1st of this year, and it came out in piecemeal in 2026 because of all the continuing resolutions, and they shut the government down, then they shut the Department of Homeland Security down, then it was a partial shutdown of Homeland Security. The Homeland Security shutdown was over administrative warrants, taking off the masks, right? Having your badge, ICE showing their badge, and body cams, mandatory body cams. And the Republicans and Trump and Homan didn't want mandatory body cams. So the 2026 budget, Trump wanted to spend only $6 million on body cams for ICE agents, and they would never be mandatory. The final number came in at $20 million for 2026. Tom Homan is lying. ICE got all $20 million earmarked for body cams, but he slowed down the rollout because he didn't want ICE agents to have to wear body cams. Greg Bovino, the Border Patrol commander who admitted to lying under oath, he apologized under oath to Illinois federal judge, Judge Ellis, and then she ordered him to begin training to wear a body cam at all times. He didn't want to, but he agreed to it, but then he appealed her order, and so he never had to undergo the training to wear a body cam. So he wasn't wearing a body cam. They don't want to wear body cams. $20 million for 2026 to hand out body cams, and they didn't get delivered. Not because the Democrats held up the money. Greg Bovino, Tom Homan, Stephen Miller, the Department of Homeland Security, they do not want ICE agents wearing body cams because body cams tell the truth. ICE can't exist with the truth. We would abolish ICE if we knew the truth about ICE. So they don't want body cams. And this new order from Tom Homan isn't sufficient. It's also another lie. Homan is now requiring a team of ICE agents performing a traffic stop. A team must include one officer wearing a body cam. Now, do I have to explain to you why that's clearly tantamount to no ICE agent being ordered to wear a body cam? I mean, you know how this goes, right? You know. These traffic stops were temporarily suspended on July 14th. But then Donald Trump the next day demanded they resume. He called the traffic stops ICE's most effective, quote, crime-fighting tool. Problem is ICE doesn't fight or prevent crime because none of the people they're pulling over and arresting, none of them are criminals. ICE agents are, not the people they're rounding up or shooting and killing. At worst, at the very worst, these immigrants who ICE is rounding up, at the very worst, they may have once done time for a crime, but they served their sentence. Can't arrest, that's double jeopardy. Can't arrest somebody just because they once did time for a crime. These people didn't escape from a prison. None of them are wanted for any outstanding crimes, because if they were, local, state, and federal police, real police officers, not ICE agents who dress up and play cops and robbers, real police would have already arrested the real criminals. ICE is not equipped to make traffic stops, and that's a new phenomenon. This is just recently, in the past 10 years, that ICE, since Trump became president, that ICE is being asked to perform traffic stops, and it's amped up in the past year and a half. They're not equipped. They're not trained to stop somebody, pull them off to the side of the road, and ask for papers. Why? Because our nation is flooded with hundreds of millions of guns, and a traffic stop is a high-pressure situation that even trained officers can't handle. ICE agents are not trained to deal with even the possibility of coming face-to-face with a real criminal. They're not equipped emotionally to deal with imaginary criminals. Well, they're equipped, they're given guns, but they're not emotionally equipped, they're not trained to deal with imaginary criminals, which is why they keep shooting and killing innocent people. ICE agents don't know what to do during a routine traffic stop. We can't rely on their sense memory from when they were ordinary civilians being pulled over by cops. That's not training when you're being arrested for drunk driving. The halfway decent ICE agents, they fire their weapon out of fear. Those are the good ICE agents. Those are the ones who end up shooting their gun off because they were afraid, right? Those are the good ones. And then there are the ones who fire their weapons because it was only a matter of time before they fired it. Could have been at an immigrant they just pulled over. Could have been an ex-wife, a girlfriend. I'm not suggesting, by the way, that every single ICE agent has something seriously wrong with them and cannot be trusted with a weapon. I would not dare suggest such a thing. Instead, I'm telling you that. That is not a suggestion. I am telling you every single ICE agent in America cannot be trusted with a weapon or to perform a traffic stop. Every single ICE agent, thanks to Donald Trump and Stephen Miller, they got to round up 2,000 immigrants a day now. Every single ICE agent, thanks to Stephen Miller, Mark Wayne Mullinow, Kristi Noem, Corey Lewandowski, Tom Homan, Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh, who gave us the Kavanaugh stops. Every single ICE agent in America has something seriously wrong with them and cannot be trusted with a shield, a badge, or a weapon. Now, maybe 20 years ago, people became ICE agents, and they were normal. But the nature of the job, thanks to Trump and Obama was deporter-in-chief, and Biden, but mostly Trump, the nature of serving as an ICE agent has devolved to the point where if you are now an ICE agent, there is something spiritually, emotionally, psychologically, intellectually, physically wrong with you. Either the job made you sick or you chose the job because you're already sick. That's a fact. If you can prove otherwise, I welcome corrections on this show. rounding up innocent people. Now listen to me. Rounding up innocent people and throwing them into concentration camps, which is what these for-profit detention centers are. Rabbis, students of ethnic cleansing, students of genocide, all signed a document agreeing that these for-profit ICE detention centers are concentration camps. When you're singling out one group of people, innocent people, and putting them behind bars indefinitely with no habeas corpus, no access to lawyers, one meal a day, no water, no medicine, that is, by the very definition, a concentration camp. Stop thinking of Hitler. We had concentration camps in America. The British had concentration camps in South Africa. We had concentration camps in the Philippines while Hitler was still sucking on his mother's penis, or however she breastfed him. So rounding up innocent people, throwing them into concentration camps, doing that, you may not like it at first if you're an ICE agent, but doing that means you become a tiger who has tasted human blood. You know, tigers don't like to eat humans. We don't taste good. I know that for a fact. I don't want to talk about my dietary needs, but I can assure you, humans don't taste good. Tigers don't want to eat humans, but once they taste human blood, it changes because we don't run fast. So you cannot be around a tiger who has ever tasted human blood. No fault of the tigers, but once they taste it, you cannot trust that tiger. Can't play poker with that tiger, can't give him $50 to go shopping for you and get the right change back. They're going to rip your face apart. So, a lot of ICE agents, who I give the benefit of the doubt to, they start off trying to do their job honorably, but the system quickly feeds them human blood, and you cannot trust them with a badge, a shield, the responsibility, or a gun. If you do this for a living, if you separate a breastfeeding 1-year-old from their mother, you may not like it at first, but then you're hooked, unless you quit. You know, if you do that and you say, I can't do this, you're fine. But if you do that once, it's in your blood. And we're now finding that a lot of these ICE recruits don't need to become emotionally damaged by working for ICE. They enter the job pre-effed up. A lot of them right now, because they're trying to hire 10,000 more recruits, you don't need the job anymore to F these people up. The people who decide to become ICE agents now, pre-effed up. They show up completely deranged. For example, details are now emerging from last Monday morning's fatal shooting of 26-year-old Colombian national Johan Durán Guerrero, who was killed in front of his 3-year-old daughter and her mother. He worked for a veterinarian and then got a job delivering food, no criminal record. In fact, he wasn't even the target of an ICE operation. He just ended up driving out of an apartment building that was totally innocent, as was the gentleman in Houston, Texas, earlier this month. The president of Colombia, Gustavo Petro, called his murder, murder. and he demanded an investigation. We saw some of the video, not the dash cam video, but we saw a lot of the surveillance video. And just like the killing of Renee Good, anyone acting in good faith who sees the video clearly concludes the car had not been weaponized. These are the facts as we know them. Guerrero entered the United States without permission, we think without permission, in 2023. And some of you go, really? Really? You want to stand by your, You really want to stand by that? First of all, okay, once you're here, how you arrived is of no concern. That's the law. It's not a criminal offense to be in this country without permission. That's how America was built. That's how we do things, or did things in the United States. If you make it here, it's survival of the fittest. It's Darwinian. The policy has always been, hey, you made it in here. We couldn't stop you. You survived. We need individuals like you. So congratulations, you're in. That has been immigration policy pretty much since the beginning, off and on, depending on waves of racism. So Guerrero had a Social Security card. He had a work authorization. He was not the target of any ICE investigation. He was a law-abiding non-citizen. Nobody was trying to throw him out. He wasn't in violation. He belonged in the country. He made it here. And the law is, if you can make it here, you can stay here so long as you haven't committed any crimes here in the United States, or you are not wanted for legitimate crimes in your country of origin. A lot of these people are fleeing totalitarian regimes, and they face trumped-up charges. So the rule here in America is if you didn't commit any crime in America and the crime you are charged with in your home country is bogus, and it probably is, that's why you came here, you can stay. Why? Not out of compassion. We need them. We don't have enough people. That's why Dr. Oz is setting up this commission to increase fertility. We don't have enough people. Well, we do. They're at the border. And most importantly, if you sneak into this country without permission and you get in here, you're not a criminal. Now, the racists might say you're a criminal, but the law says you're not a criminal. It's not a crime to be here in the United States without permission. It is not a crime to have snuck into this country. Now, coming into this country without permission, you're going to get, if they catch you, it's a little different. But it's not a crime. It's a civil offense, or at least it's supposed to be. And you're entitled to an immigration hearing according to international and domestic law. Trying to get into this country without permission is not a felony. Okay? At worst, it's a civil offense, meaning you pay a fine. Or the person who brought you into this country pays a fine. It's not a criminal offense. Do you know why? Some of you are capable of critical thinking. My listeners are, but if you're a Republican, you don't know why it's not a crime. Because you're stupid. You're a stupid Republican who rather just bathe in your bigotry. If it was a crime to be in this country without permission, you'd have to arrest every owner of every slaughterhouse, nursing home, and tomato farm. See, that's why it's only a civil offense, and it's enforced sporadically depending on the political moods of the country. Fines, civil fines. Okay. This is the mop-up, by the way. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you for finding me. The Associated Press has done some reporting on that ICE agent who is believed to have been the one who shot 26-year-old Guerrero to death. You can read this over at the Associated Press's website, and you should donate to the Associated Press. And their stories, if it's from the Associated Press, it's a masterclass in journalism. The Associated Press is the gold standard for journalism. So you should go to the Associated Press website and donate to the Associated Press. I don't want to give you the name of the ICE agent. The Associated Press did, and they go into detail about who he is and why people are saying he was the shooter. All I can tell you, and most of you by now already know this because it broke 3 days ago. We know the ICE agent is believed to be 37, and by all accounts, shouldn't have been anywhere near a gun or a law enforcement badge. Multiple reporting, not just from the Associated Press, but especially from the Associated Press. All this reporting shows this guy had a long history of not just mental illness, but violence especially towards women. Women. Always women, isn't it? The ICE agent who shot Renee Good, we believe, was caught on tape saying effing bitch, right? One of the reasons these guys become ICE agents. According to the Associated Press, this suspected shooter, ICE agent who did the shooting, according to the Associated Press, he once tossed boiling water at his ex-wife while she was holding their baby. But that's not the worst of it. I mean, who does that? Who throws boiling water at your wife while she's holding their baby? Who would even think of throwing boiling water at your wife while she's holding your baby, except for every man who works inside the Trump White House? Well, the baby hardly got splashed by the boiling water. Who would even think of doing that? People who work in the Trump administration. Again, it's not the worst. I'm going on reporting mostly from the Associated Press, which you should donate to. His ex-wife telling the AP that immediately after the shooting of Guerrero Monday morning, she received a frantic call from the ICE agent who she had once been married to, and she told the Associated Press he begged her to vouch for his character. She refused, and she went public. Very brave to go public. She told the Associated Press it was impossible for her to lie to her ex-husband, and she revealed her name and his name, which is not the safest thing to do when you got Donald Trump as president. There's a reason North Carolina maverick Tom Tillis, Republican, isn't running for re-election. He couldn't handle the death threats that came in when he was on the fence on voting for Pete Hegseth. I've been over this countless times. So, according to the Associated Press, this ICE agent who is believed to be the shooter of Guerrero, the wife and the ICE agent were married from 2007 until 2009. She filed for divorce after suffering physical abuse from him. When he remarried, he called to tell her he had just been hired by ICE, and she told the Associated Press her first thought was he's having a psychotic episode, another psychotic episode, imagining things, because she thought there was no way ICE would have hired somebody with a history of violence as well as mental illness dating back to his childhood. Several other close friends and relatives telling the Associated Press that this ICE agent, who is believed to have been the shooter of 26-year-old Guerrero, Monday morning, several close friends and relatives telling the Associated Press this guy should have never been issued a badge or a license. NBC News reporting there is now audio of this agent who left a message reportedly on his ex-wife's phone after he reportedly got hired by ICE last year. He left a message on her phone telling her she needs to get her throat slit. His ex-wife played that message. It was last year. She played that message to the Associated Press. AP reporting that in the message they heard him, the agent, repeatedly call his ex-wife disgusting and suggested that she and the other women and girls in her bloodline should die. Quote, "And all of you should have your effing throats cut." He said the F word, I won't. "And all of you should have your effing throats cut. Yeah, you should. Am I threatening that? I'm going to do that? Nope. Nope. But do I think that you should have your effing throats cut? Or should have had them cut? Yep." Unquote. Oh, so he's innocent. He wasn't threatening to slit the throat of the woman he allegedly threw boiling water at while she was holding their baby. He just said, after getting hired by ICE, he reportedly said he thinks somebody should slit his ex-wife's effing throat. Well, that's not a threat, right? Perfectly innocent. Well, the Department of Homeland Security is insisting that the shooter was well-trained and acted out of self-defense, that the vehicle Monday morning had been weaponized, and now, thanks to the FBI's new policy announced over the weekend, we have to take the Department of Homeland Security's word for it. We have to take, if Department of Homeland Security says he acted out of self-defense, no FBI, no Justice Department will be looking into it. But it's just immigrants, right? Just immigrants. Renee Good. She was an immigrant. She was in this country. She was undocumented. Alex Preddy. Immigrant. Can't happen to U.S. law-abiding. And if it does, it happens to people of color. Not Alex Preddy. Oh, right. 2 white U.S. citizens. Right. See where this is going? Protests against ICE took place throughout Maine over the weekend. This as Democrats elected delegates to pick Graham Platner's replacement. You might remember Graham Platner was the Democratic nominee for Senate in Maine until a woman stepped forward with what appears to be credible rape accusations. Of course, it's all Bernie Sanders' fault and AOC's fault. Not that it's their fault he might have raped this woman, and they should have. They used MK Ultra techniques to brainwash Graham Platner into raping a woman, and then it's always Bernie's fault for being right about everything. It's always AOC's fault. It's always Ralph Nader's fault for being right about every single thing. So, yeah, it's starting to look like the front runner is Troy Jackson. Looks like Troy Jackson is going to be the Democratic nominee for the Democratic nominee for Senate. And he's endorsed by Bernie Sanders. Jackson, up until recently, served as the president of the Maine Senate, and some polls show him beating Susan Collins, the Republican incumbent. Susan Collins is running for her 7th term, and she is considered one of the most vulnerable Republicans heading into the midterms, where the Democrats need a net gain. I believe, is it 4? Okay, here's where I've made a mistake. Is it 4 seats? Or maybe 5 to win control? This is something I should know. And I knew it, and I can't remember. I think because it's a little confusing, because you got the vice president who breaks the tie, and Lindsey Graham's dead, and I'm upset. He's got a replacement. The reason I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 is because I'm so distraught over the death of Lindsey Graham. So, yeah, if I got it wrong, tell everybody. Leave comments if I got this wrong. If it's 5, I'm going to bet that it's 4. They have to flip. They need a net gain of 4. But if it's 5, feel free to attack me in the comments section if I got that wrong, because I deserve it. And I will issue a correction on the next show. So, Maine Democrats will hold a nominating convention. They're electing the delegates over the weekend, this weekend, and then those delegates will participate in a nominating convention in Bangor on Bangor. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I must issue restraint. Platner's replacement will be named in Bangor. Not going to do it. Sorry, my balls were rotating. I don't know what that sound is. Okay, I apologize. I shouldn't be doing a show today, this year, this decade. The race for control of the House is settling in for the summer, with most polls now showing the Democrats ahead, despite Republicans beating them in the gerrymandering wars. All right? There's a new Washington Post poll out. And again, polls are snapshots. I know some of you bet with Kalshi and Polymarket, and you get upset because the polls are asking you to place bets on who the winner is going to be. The polls are accurate, but they're just accurate snapshots of where the electorate stands at this moment. Doesn't tell you what's going to happen on November 3rd. And a new Washington Post, so don't bet on elections. It's a good idea. It's kind of unpatriotic. Instead of betting money on elections, give that money to Pramila Jayapal or Bernie Sanders or AOC or any members of the Rashida Tlaib. Always first give your money to Rashida Tlaib. If you're a Jewish American, you give your money to Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian member of Congress. You may not agree with her, but we need her voice in the Democratic Party. She was not allowed to speak at the Democratic Convention in 2024 because she's a Palestinian she's a Palestinian American. One of the reasons Harris lost was Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American serving in Congress, Democrat, was not allowed to speak at her own convention. You may not agree with Rashida Tlaib, but you should donate to her. Not easy being her or Ilhan Omar. A new Washington poll shows the Democrats leading Republicans in the generic congressional ballot poll by about 3%. It is generally agreed, and the Post points this out, Howie Klein, God bless him, used to always tell us this, that thanks to structural advantages for the GOP, gerrymandering, Democrats always need to be leading 3 to 4 points in the generic congressional polls for that to translate into a district-by-district capture of the House. The House is decided district by district. It's the closest we get to a parliamentary election. So these polls are suggesting, the Washington Post and other polls suggest that maybe the race could end up much closer since the Democrats are within the bottom edge of that 3 to 4% range, what they need to overcome gerrymandering. However, midterms are all about turnout because people don't vote the way they do in a presidential election. You have to animate your base for the midterms, and this Washington Post poll, as well as others, is showing that the enthusiasm favors Democrats by margins not seen since 2018 when Republicans lost control of the House. Now, I don't have it in front of me, but I'm going to say in 2018, when Trump was president and the midterms took place, I think he lost 56, the Republicans lost 56 seats, something like that. I'm going to say 56 to give you a chance to fact check me. And if I'm wrong, have at it. But I think it was 56 seats that Republicans lost in 2018. The Democrats right now only need to flip 3. They need a net gain of 3 to control the House. So history is on the side of Hakeem Jeffries, but it's Donald Trump who's president, and he is historical. Well, this is disturbing news. Remember Mike Lindell, the big election denier, going broke? He's been sued by Smartmatic, sued by Dominion, people who work for Dominion, for allegedly lying about the voting machines. Well, he's running for governor of Minnesota, and he's been endorsed by our president. Our president endorsed the My Pillow guy, and I think he's going to be running against Amy Klobuchar. I think she's running for governor of Minnesota. Well, there's a little problem, though, for Mike Lindell. because he's the big election denier. And he's the one who insists that non-citizens are voting. Turns out Mike Lindell, running for governor of Minnesota, isn't a citizen. Or at least he's not a citizen of Minnesota. He's registered to vote in Texas. In order to become governor, you need to be a citizen of the state you want to be governor of. If you're registered to vote in Texas, that means you're not a citizen. Trump is so worried about immigrants voting. Turns out the problem is non-citizens running for office. Okay, where are we? This is the Mop-Up. I'm David Feldman in New York City. Thank you for finding me. I would stop watching right around now. There's no point for you to continue. I promise you, you'll regret it. I had a rough weekend. I want you to trust me, and the only way for that to happen is I can never lie. This is not the show you want to watch today. It isn't. I go live every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 6:05 p.m. I want to do today's show. I need to do today's show. I'm doing today's show, but this is not the show you should watch today. So I'm going to tell you what happened, but let the record state, Your Honor, the audience cannot say they weren't warned. Okay. Here's what happened. I am incapable of relaxation. I also can't believe, I can't believe that I'm smart. I have to convince myself I'm incredibly stupid. That is the impetus for this entire podcast. Why do I do this? I want to convince myself and others I'm not stupid, and I'm incapable of relaxing. So I can't relax. The problem is I was starting to feel smart. The Supreme Court is on recess. They always do a pretty great job of making me feel stupid. Then there's Congress, the war with Iran, Trump. For some reason, they make me feel smart. I don't know why, but Trump lately has been making the war in Iran, Congress makes me feel smart. And that's not a good thing for me. I'm out of my comfort zone when I feel smart. I need to feel stupid. There's no oxygen for me to breathe unless I wake up every morning convinced I'm stupid. So, last week, worried there was nothing to convince me I'm a moron, I took it upon myself to build my own website. If you want to feel stupid, try building your own website. I figured there are so many tools out there, so many powerful large language models, AI, that can answer the really hard questions. I thought, how difficult can it be to build your own website? And that's like saying, how difficult can it be to repair your own toilet? Or, repair your own brakes. That's pretty much the same thing. In the past, I hired people to build websites for my show. And there's a reason you do something like that. But I needed to feel like an idiot because Donald Trump, Congress, Pete Hegseth, the war in Iran, they were making me feel kind of prescient, and I don't like that feeling. I like to be wrong. That's why I invite people to correct me on the show. My comfort zone is being stupid. So I built my own website. You can check it out at davidfeldmanshow.com. And yes, it looks like crap, but not to me. You know how your own children always look beautiful to you until someone has to point out, you got a paper bag for your son because we're trying to eat here? This is a Burger King, and okay, I'm sorry. So, yeah, I think my website is beautiful, but I also think my kids are. So check it out, davidfeldmanshow.com. And it took me about 10 days to do this, and it's completely frayed my nerves. And I'm doing this without alcohol or pot. I'm white-knuckling it. By white-knuckling, I mean masturbation. I'm a white-knuckle alcoholic. Whenever I want to drink, I masturbate. All right. Not good to laugh at your own jokes. So I have to do this show because I have no life. And if anybody is interested, I'm going to talk about my effing website. I've given you about 20 minutes of real show, and now I'm going to do something for me and make my knuckles white. Again, you can't say you have not been. I'm telling you, there's no need for you to watch. I feel I'm contractually obligated to give you about 45 minutes of, and then the rest, anyway, the rest of the show. So at the top of the show, I said, this is not the show to watch today, but if you're still here, you only have yourself to blame. So let me tell you about the website. If you're curious about the news sources that I use to build today's program, head on over to davidfeldmanshow.com right now and hit the menu item entitled Show Prep. And a page of headlines appears with links for you to click and explore most of the stories that shaped this episode. This was a nightmare building this. Which means, and I worked really hard on it. I'm really proud of it, and nobody's gonna go there. But it's a page you should bookmark and check it throughout the day. It's updated every 15 minutes, and it's specifically tailored to feature stories I either just read or I'm about to read at the end of the day. These are literally the stories printed out and piled on my desk as I prepare this and all future shows. And that's why the menu item is called Show Prep. Prep, of course, short for Preparation H, because building this effing page was a major pain in the ass, and I doubt it's even working right now. If you've ever heard a grown man scream, "God damn it!" My neighbor, everything okay? Yeah, it's okay. God damn it! What a nightmare living next to me and hearing through the air shaft, "God damn it!" So these are stories from legitimate news. God damn it. These are legitimate, and that's just me making my knuckles white. These are stories from legitimate news sources that I believe merit my, and I hope your, attention, and it's totally free. Just go to davidfeldmanshow.com, hit the Show Prep button, and it won't work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. But if it does, then you'll get to feel like me that you're a lot smarter than you actually are. Okay? So that's the first nightmare on the website that I build that is not going to work. It was working before the show started, but 2 hours before the show started, there was a lot of, God damn it. God damn it. Okay. Now, if you're enjoying today's episode, after you get your head examined, but if for some reason you're off your meds and you're enjoying this, or at least the first 40 minutes of this garbage, then go to my website and press the button labeled The Big Dig. Yes, it's spelled properly. That's another button I have. You're thinking of the other button on my show. I'll get to that in a second. This is The Big Dig. It's over at davidfeldmanshow.com. The Big Dig is another menu item, and this one allows you to read and or download the actual notes that went into the final production of my most recent episode. And I think this is pretty good for my listeners. It's free, and it's a valuable resource. It's even a study guide to help you remember and organize the information I just shared with you. It's the Big Dig, where you dig a big divot in your brain so you can store everything I just told you on this show. These are the actual notes I'm working off while I'm talking to you. It's the home version of the game. You can have my notes and pretend to be me. How pathetic is that? Wouldn't you like to pretend you're me? You could hold my actual show notes while talking at people, not with people. You can hold my notes from this episode, not this part, but the stuff earlier. You can download my notes and then talk at people during a dinner party before you're politely ushered out of the room and poured into a taxi, never to be asked to come back again. Wouldn't that be fun to bore people, say over the phone, working off my show notes? You can do that now. You can go to davidfeldmanshow.com, hit the Big Dig, and be a big dick around people who never want to be around you. You can read them, my show notes on the side, or you can download them. I'm telling you, this is the key. These show notes is the key that unlocks the door to never getting laid again. So, I get a lot of people contacting me with questions. My listeners go, David, you seem to have it together. What's the secret you have to not getting laid? And they say, help me. How do you do it? You walk into a room and everybody goes, wow, that's a guy who can't get laid. What's your secret? My show notes. I promise that if you download my show notes and work off them during a dinner date, you are going home alone that night. In fact, I'm so confident that my show notes will keep you from getting laid, I'm willing to make this offer. And I mean this. This is a promise. If you download my show notes and they don't keep you from getting laid, mail me your soiled sheets. I will launder them personally, no questions asked, and ship them back fully cleaned, free of charge. That's how confident I am that my show notes will keep you from getting laid. Do I want to launder your dirty sheets? No, but this is how certain I am that you're sounding like David Feldman, will relieve you of the pesky annoyance of someone keeping you up all night, making the beast with two backs, as Shakespeare so ineptly put it. That's how Shakespeare describes sex. The beast with two backs. Who was he stooping? Quasimodo? Who has two backs? Quasimodo had two backs. Okay. If you want to be poetic about sex, it's not the beast with two backs? People, that's supposed to be smart? No, I'm better than Shakespeare. It's the two-headed beast with 4 arms, 4 legs, a penis, and a vagina. That's what Shakespeare should have called sex. And I think that trips off the tongue way more mellifluously than the beast with two backs. I am so much better than Shakespeare. My fair maiden, dost thou wanteth to maketh the two-headed beast with 4 arms, 4 legs, 1 penis, and 1 vagina, I saith unto usted? Usted? My English, my Elizabethan is a little rusty. It's usted, right? Romeo, Romeo, oh Romeo, where art usted, Romeo? Anyway, show notes. Nobody is here. And this is just, I'm white-knuckling it. And you know what I mean by white-knuckling. That's a pretty good joke. I'm a white-knuckle drunk. Whenever I want to, instead of pouring myself a drink, I masturbate. A lot of you don't know what a white-knuckle drunk is. Somebody who won't go to AA, which you should do. But if you don't go to AA, they call you a white-knuckle drunk. So, but... Anyway, show notes. Big Dig. They're called the Big Dig. It's not going to work, so shouldn't even be listening right now. Show notes, I replace them after each new episode, so usted can only get the latest show notes for as long as that's the latest episode. For example, if usted went to davidfeldmanshow.com right now and usted pressed the Big Dig, if you press the Big Dig menu item, it would bring up the show notes from Thursday's live stream right now. And that was a good show, unlike this. Show notes for this episode will be posted at the conclusion of this live stream, and usted can't access the previous episode's show notes. You can only access the show notes for the latest episode, and it's the menu item called the Big Dig, which really should just be show notes, but the button isn't going to work anyway. So the website has probably crashed. Not because so many people are going there right now. I think the internet just got bored. And now, to access my show notes, you have to give me your first name and your email address, because I need to know you're a real person. These are the notes for my show. They're somewhat personal, and I don't want to hand them over to a data scraper, so ChatGPT can train one of its large language models. So I also would like the first name and email of anyone who took the time to read my show notes, because this is a small show and I'm building out the community again, or at least I'm trying to, because these large corporations make it harder for you to find me and me to find you. I mean, I have to get to find you, I have to. No, don't say. So I need to reach my listeners when I have to. I need to be able to connect with the people who care about this show. I'm at the mercy of multi-billion-dollar corporations. I'm asking them to distribute this little show on their platforms, and some of them, as you know, are actively throttling back distribution of this show and other shows for the obvious reasons. The most ludicrous reason, though, comes from Facebook, which complained I offer too much sexual content. That is an actual, they say we are not recommending your show because there's too much sexual content on it. I don't mind being throttled back, but don't insult my stupidity. But they say I do a sexually charged podcast that violates community standards, endangering the safety of Facebook users. Apparently, I'm being penalized for having such a hot ass, and that's unfair. I think the American Disabilities Act, I think I'm protected. I think my hot ass, I think I'm a protected class. I can't change the fact that nature cursed me with an ass that turns normal humans into rabid, oozing, bubbling hormones. It's not my fault. I was born that way. But here I am, throttled on Facebook for the sole crime of being too sexy for Mark Zuckerberg. So I can't depend on any of these corporate platforms. I need to be able to email my listeners when I have an important announcement, because email remains the best way to communicate important information. Still does. Also, I want you to give me your email and your name, because I don't want my show notes ending up with people who don't trust me. Is anybody still here? The first half hour of this show was pretty good. There's no need for anybody to be listening to this right now. So I want your email. If you're a casual listener and you want my show notes, but you don't trust me with your email address, then I don't trust you with my show notes. How about that? My show notes are personal. So I need to know you're real. And I need to know you actually trust me. That I need to know that you trust that I won't sell your email to an email marketing firm. I need you to trust me that I won't flood your inbox with frivolity. So if you want my show notes, you got to give me your first name and your email, because everything I say on this show is sourced and fact-based. And on those rare occurrences when I get something wrong, I immediately issue a correction. I invite my listeners to correct me. And you might notice I rarely issue corrections because I rarely tell you something that's incorrect. But every episode I lay the gauntlet down and invite you to fact-check me. The dearth of corrections on the David Feldman Show is not a reflection of David Feldman's unwillingness to admit he's wrong. Rather, it speaks to how rare it is for David Feldman to be wrong. You might think my opinions are wrong, but not my facts. I triple-check everything. For example, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie, is made entirely of a queef, transformed from a gas into a solid through a process known as desublimation. Some of you corrected me. Then you found out what desublimation was. And then you realized, oh, he's telling me the truth. Katie Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, her mother couldn't conceive anything other than a queef. So Katie Miller's mother went to a specialist who captures the gas from a queef and, using his own proprietary coolants, is able to pressurize that gas into a solid state queef, which appears on the surface to be living flesh. Over time, it grows increasingly repulsive, as evidenced by the fact that this solid state queef named Katie was only able to marry Stephen Miller. That's a fact. And sometimes I tell you things that seem a little strange. And then you find out, oh, he's telling me the truth, because this is a fact-based show. Everything I tell you is true. Like Katie Miller, the wife of Stephen Miller, Stephen Miller's wife, Katie, is made entirely of a queef transformed from a gas into a solid through the process of desublimation. So if you want my show notes, I need your email. And if you don't trust me, then I don't trust you. And I'm not interested in your email address because you're not someone with whom I care to communicate. If you want my show prep, you can have that. I don't ask for your email. It's there on the site, not working. If you go to David Feldman Show right now and you want to read all the articles that went into the show, hit show prep and you'll get a dead link. And you'll go, that schmuck tried to build his own website. What an idiot. But in my imagination, you're going to go hit show prep and you can read all the articles without giving me your email. But if you want my notes, the conclusions I've drawn while reading those articles, you can only gain access by pressing on the menu item entitled The Big Dig. And you have to surrender your email address and your first name for that. And what will I do with your email? Nothing, unless I have an important announcement. For example, if there's going to be a big Zoom meetup with a special guest, you'll hear from me. Now, if you sign up for my newsletter, you will only hear from me when my newsletter goes out. Sign up for my newsletter. I only notify you that there's a newsletter to read, and it's not about the show. The newsletter isn't about the show. I put the newsletter out only to talk about what's going on in the world. So sign up for my newsletter, which I only send out when I have something to say that I would like you to read. Okay? I won't flood your inbox. We have an epidemic now of overflowing boxes. I'm a big consumer of the written word, and I have multiple heroes who are way smarter than I am, but they flood my inbox every day with nonsense. And I think, for people this smart, they're pretty stupid because nobody wants to hear from anybody every day, especially if they're not a friend or relative. Or in my case, especially if they are a friend or relative. I'd rather hear from complete strangers than my friends and relatives, who, when you think about it, really are complete strangers. I have a rule for anyone who gets close to me. And here's the rule. Unless somebody died, I'll contact you when and if it's ever necessary for us to exchange words. Otherwise, go to a neutral corner and remain there. Again, if you want to correct something I said, if you think I got my facts wrong, you can hit the contact button over at my website, which I guarantee you that won't work either. You can leave a comment on the platform where you get this episode. That will probably work, but what you should do is go to my website, try to leave a comment, and then taunt me on the platform you're listening to this on and say your website doesn't work if you want to upset me. If you really want to, just keep reminding me the website has crashed. Okay. Should I wrap it up? All right. What else do I have? I just want to do, I'm crazy. I'm out of my mind because normal people don't build their own websites when they don't know anything. So this is bad. This is self-destructive behavior. The self-destructive behavior started when I decided to build my own website, and it continues into this episode where I decided to talk about my website that's not working right now. I don't even need to go to the website right now. I know it's not working. I know that. Now, if you want a little more engagement with me, if you don't mind perhaps receiving an email once or twice a month, then you can join my fan club. Now, I've gotten some of my relatives and friends have said, "Really? You have a fan club?" I said, "Yes." And they said, "It's ridiculous." And I said, "I know, but it's really out of my hands." I resisted having a fan club at first, but the pressure to set up an official David Feldman fan club got too great. The pressure inside of me was building up. I thought I was going to explode if I didn't have my own fan club. So I finally said to myself, "Okay, David, you win. I'll set up a fan club." The people, again, I'm embarrassed that there's a fan club, but the people have spoken. And by people, I mean some, not all, but some of the voices in my head. A plurality of voices in my head said there should be a David Feldman fan club, an official David Feldman fan club. And if you go to my website, you can join the official David Feldman fan club. And there's a little more then I'm going to wrap it up, but there's a little housekeeping here to avoid confusion because there are so many unofficial David Feldman fan clubs that are not out there. And I wanted to make sure that when you choose not to join a David Feldman fan club, you can be certain you're not joining the official David Feldman fan club. That's why I decided to call it the official David Feldman fan club. So if you're on my website, davidfeldmanshow.com, you can rest assured that the menu item that reads Join David's Fan Club, you know for sure that it is in fact the official David Feldman fan club you will not be joining. Again, there are thousands of David Feldman fan clubs out there that don't exist, but not a single one of these non-existent David Feldman fan clubs can claim to be the official David Feldman fan club. So to rid the world of confusion, I created the official David Feldman fan club that you're not going to join because it too doesn't really exist. Or maybe it does. I haven't decided yet. But here's my offer to you on the David Feldman fan club. Because some people, and by some people, I mean me, want there to be a David Feldman fan club. Here's my offer. Right now you're thinking, why the hell would I want to join the official David Feldman fan club? So here's my offer. If you have a college-bound child padding their resume to get into a good college, if you're accepted into my fan club, I will give your child permission to list themselves as president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club. Believe me, that title carries a lot of weight with college admissions officers. So that's one reason to try to get accepted into the official David Feldman fan club. Now, to be clear, I am president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club. Pro tem, Latin for I'm in favor of tem, pro tem. Tem is Latin for Tim. And if it helps your idiot child to get into Princeton, I'm fine with that idiot kid claiming to be president pro tem of the official David Feldman Show fan club because I have no ego. But your child still has to recognize me, David Feldman, as the actual president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club. And I will remain president pro tem for as long as this club exists. That's how pro tem I am. I love the idea of tem so much that I will be permanent president pro tem of the David Feldman fan club forever. That's how pro tem I am. I am the permanent president pro tem. I am permanent president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club. I deserve a fan club. I do. But the problem is I also deserve fans. So I had to take the liberty of setting up my own fan club. And because at the time of its inception, I was and remain the only member, it has fallen on me to assume the awesome responsibility of serving as permanent president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Now, a lot of you are not thinking right now, gee, how do I not join the official David Feldman fan club? Well, you don't join, you have to be accepted. You can apply over at davidfeldmanshow.com. There's a 42-page application to get accepted and, of course, a non-refundable $200 processing fee. I'll need 2 forms of ID, including, this is reasonable, this is standard operation procedure for all fan clubs. 2 forms of ID, your social security number, your mother's maiden name, the city you were born, the name of the best man at your wedding, the band that played at the first concert you ever attended, and of course the first name of your high school crush. I mean, that goes without saying. I'll also need the first and last name of your first and last pet, your credit card number, expiration date, the code on the back, and an easy-to-trace example of your official signature, as well as every address you've lived at since the age of 17. Then, if you're lucky enough to get accepted into the official David Feldman fan club, I receive a T-shirt of my choice from you, as well as discounts at all participating restaurants, movie theaters, and hotels from you. So hit the button and see if you can get accepted into this very exclusive fan club. Again, I am the permanent president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club. But we will hold elections for a new permanent president pro tem just as soon as I can restore order in the community, a community which so far consists exclusively of me. Maybe my sister. My sister might be a member. She says she's going to join as soon as I return the black cape she purchased from a Romanian rug merchant who I'm pretty sure she was sleeping with during her summer abroad. I took the cape. So right now, I am merely permanent president pro tem of the official David Feldman Show fan club. Once I get a sense that the factionalism and petty grievances within the community have subsided, once I feel it's safe to hold free and fair and honest elections for a permanent president pro tem of the official David Feldman fan club, then the polls will be opened, and the people willing to pay my poll tax, pass a literacy test, and present 400 documents proving they're U.S. citizens, they will get to cast their ballot. But until such time, I, David Feldman, remain permanent president pro tem of the David Feldman fan club. But think of me merely as the eternal caretaker to guarantee the radicals don't destroy what is yet to be built. I am but an everlasting placeholder. This is and remains temporary forever until this perpetual crisis that never ends comes to an end. So if you apply for the David Feldman fan club, you will receive a few more emails from me in the course of a month. So you're not going to hear a lot from me if you sign up for my newsletter. If you sign up for my fan club, and you give me your email, I'm going to abuse the privilege of having your email address if you're stupid enough to join my fan club. Seriously, if you're that stupid to join my fan club, I'm going to abuse your box. You deserve to be harassed because you're an idiot. And I just might send out an email, a daily reminder that you're an idiot. Again, I would never sell your email address to a marketing firm, but I would seriously consider it because you're not entitled to any privacy. The world needs to know how stupid you are. You joined my fan club. That makes you a danger to the community. Again, I wouldn't sell your email address to a marketing company. I wouldn't do it. But I should, because you're a moron and you disgust me. I'm also thinking of holding a meeting of my fan club on Zoom. I'm being serious about this. And the cameras will be completely off. I don't want to look at my fans. You sicken me. We would have a meetup so I can berate you. I want to do that. I really do. I want to hold a meeting of the David Feldman Show fan club, and I'll take your calls. And, some people solve problems. I'll point yours out. Wow. It's going to be a long summer. That was kind of what the original office hours eventually turned into. Does anybody remember office hours? Do any of my listeners remember office hours? It was like every love affair I've ever had. Way too crowded. I want to be left alone. Don't crowd me. especially when it comes to things like marriage or dating. That's why I only make love wearing earplugs and a Phantom of the Opera mask, because I don't want to be crowded. This is true. If you've ever had the pleasure of my carnal knowledge, you will know that in order for me to make love to you, I must first wear my earplugs and a Phantom of the Opera mask, because this is for me, not you. Right after COVID, I built this enormous community. I did. I'm being serious. It was Friday night's office hours. Some of you might remember. And if you do remember, you're probably trying to forget. Now, it lasted 3 years. 3 years is how long the community lasted. It's also how long each meeting lasted. By the end, it really just turned into one long meeting with multiple hosts. It began on a Friday night and went into early Monday morning and beyond. There was a lot of pot, a lot of alcohol, and a lot of things I can't mention. The biggest mistake, because I'm going to do this again, you got to learn from your mistakes. Biggest mistake I made was allowing attendees to keep their cameras on. Not a good idea. So I'm rebuilding this community slowly. And now when I do a Zoom meetup, your cameras are deactivated. All of them. I don't want to see you. It's bad enough you have to see me. And if you want to say something, you can raise your hand. And when you speak, your camera remains deactivated, and there's no button you can press like the last time where you can turn your camera on. Because some of you can't be trusted. Not all of you. Well, actually, all of you. I did this for 3 years. I did community building from this show. So I've learned. I'm going to try to do it again. This is what I know. When it's just audio, yes, I'll be subjected to dirty words, and I can tolerate that. But with video, I'm subjected to dirty body parts. And by dirty body parts, I don't mean some Victorian revulsion I have to the inherent nastiness of human anatomy. That's not what I'm talking about. I mean dirty body parts as in dirt, unwashed filth. As in, hey, soap and water down there could really help. And the people accidentally looking at you would really benefit from you applying soap and water to that before you turn your camera on. It's not that I don't want to see it. In fact, I like looking at it when it's been washed. The only disgusting part of your body I'm curious about, actually, is your mind. I don't want to see any other disgusting parts of your body other than your mind. I'm interested in your disgusting, repulsive thoughts, as long as you don't curse. So if you got a dirty mind, come on in. But the rest of your body needs pruning, shearing, plucking, shaving, delousing, and soap. Those are the rules. Again, I can handle my listeners' soiled and grubby ideas. What I can't handle, what to this day still traumatizes me, is bearing witness to squalid and fetid parts of one listener's unkempt body when he didn't realize his camera was turned on. Now, some of you who attended office hours religiously remember this. We saw things that change a man forever. I'm going to be totally, I'm here, but not really because of what we saw. I'm still and always will be recovering from what we saw. Every second of my life now, I have to fight really hard to stay in the moment. Otherwise, my mind flashes back to Aaron, shirtless in Latvia, with a 6-pack of beer and a bucket of chicken wings neatly tucked into the folds along the ridge of his lower rib cage. And his hands were free to do other things. Some of you who used to attend office hours remember shirtless Aaron from Latvia. So it was 3 years of that. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I do now. It devolved into screaming and accusations. You could say we were family. And it was making me and everyone involved with this experiment very, very, very sick in the head. But I'm going to try to do it again. But I've learned my lesson. You know, there's an old saying, never meet your heroes. Well, I'd like to offer an addendum. There's an old saying, never meet your heroes. I'd like to offer up an addendum, never meet your listeners. Especially Aaron, shirtless Aaron from Latvia. In theory, it's a terrific idea to form a community. The trick is to keep it a terrific idea and leave it at that, not to actually try to form a community the way I did for 3 years. At one point, we entertained the idea of creating our own cryptocurrency that could only be used as barter within the community. That's how sick this was getting. This was, imagine Jonestown with just the Kool-Aid. That's where it got to. Not good. There was one person who had 3 separate names, 3 separate Zoom accounts, all at the same time, had 3 persona, showed up as 3 different people. I don't know how I think it was a he. I don't know how they did it, but they showed up to the meeting as one persona who created a working and legitimate food bank for people in need that when we would pay money into it. He was heroic. Then he had another persona that was snarky, joke-heavy, very clever. And I've often found myself, can I have that? Can I use that? And then there was his third persona, where he shared far-right conspiracy theories only when he wasn't threatening to burn my apartment building down. One man, 3 separate personalities. 2 out of 3 I really liked. I didn't like being threatened about my apartment building. Not for me, my mice. I don't want my mice to die. Yeah, it didn't work out. So here's how I think this is going to work. I think I solved it. The trick is to create the illusion of community. That's how you do it. You create the illusion of a community. I made the mistake of creating an actual community. You just want to create what feels like a community. Like if you go to a Taylor Swift concert, she is really great. I mean, she's obviously very talented, but she's also adept at manufacturing a parasocial relationship with her crowd. She connects She does it by connecting with just enough fans to create the illusion of availability. So if you're a fan, you show up to her concert, you pay an ungodly sum, and in return, you're buying a lottery ticket, hoping that you will connect with her and she'll acknowledge your existence. That's how this game of community is supposed to work, where people think they're part of something bigger than themselves, but they're really just making Taylor Swift a billionaire. That's how it should work. Unless you're me, who can't believe anyone actually listens to this shit. And you decide, who are these people? I need to meet every single one of them. No, that's not how it works, David. That's not how it works. The idea is you're supposed to have so many listeners, it's not humanly possible to meet all of them. That's how it works. And more importantly, you're supposed to get so big, your listeners don't want to talk to you personally because you're so big, talking to you personally makes you nervous. They're so in awe, they can't form a complete sentence. That's the way it's supposed to work. But this is how my listeners talk to me when I take live calls. David? Hey, dude. Hey, do you mind vamping? I almost cracked this Wordle. Just give me 2 more minutes. I'll be with you in a second, I swear. That's how starstruck they are. Not only are my listeners not too intimidated to talk to me, the thought of talking to me, they can take it or leave it. Seems to me you're not exactly a successful podcast host if you're giving listeners rides to the airport out of gratitude for acknowledging my existence. Oh, really? You listen to my show? Yeah, I'll take you. I'll take you to the airport. Well, I got to fly to Cleveland to take you to the airport, but I'll take you to the airport. Anyway, it was during the height. I got to do shows like this so I can do the other shows. So let me I'll wrap it up. But it was during the height of the COVID lockdown when I figured, hey, we're all isolated. Let's all live together virtually on Zoom. And here's what happened. Time moved on, but we didn't. Time did. And time tried to keep it secret from us. It was like time decided it was throwing a party and didn't want to invite David Feldman or the people who showed up for his office hours. Time was like, I should tell them, but it would be so much better without. Wouldn't it be great if we move on and leave David Feldman and his listeners behind? The vaccine was finally invented. Biden became president. And normal people began experiencing this thing called sunlight and fresh air. While the rest of the world resumed its connection to reality, I, along with my community, retreated deeper into a virtual world of imaginary people who only existed in a fiber optic hose of ones and zeros. That's what Zoom is, a fiber optic hose of ones and zeros. This is what my community was. It was just ones and zeros. And to be brutally honest, mostly zeros. Few ones, mostly zeros. As the world healed, the sicker we became. We didn't even qualify as shut-ins because shut-ins have legitimate excuses. We were shut outs. Nobody in the community was suffering from agoraphobia. Nobody lacked access to the outside world. We chose to shut everything out. It was a community of Howard Hughes wannabes whose mason jars all seemed to be filled with more than just their own urine. I mean, if Howard Hughes walked in, he'd go, "You guys need to get out. This isn't healthy." I forgot how to be around real humans. How do I communicate? How will I even be able to recognize a real human? It got to the point where I could only show up for Thanksgiving if the host's basement had sufficient Wi-Fi for me to communicate via FaceTime. So the takeaway is never meet your listeners and never meet your host. Okay. So I'm going to try to do some Zoom meetups and create the illusion that we're getting to know each other. But it's an illusion. You don't really want to know me. They say success is based on who you know. They say, if they could just get to know me, I'd get that job. Well, not David Feldman. Any success I've ever had in work, relationships, or life, it all flows from people never getting to know me. But we're going to try. I bet the website's down. I'm David Feldman, reminding you to stay strong and protect the weak. Sorry about today's show. I thought the first 30 seconds was damn good. I thought the first 30 seconds, I knew this was going to be a bad show, but it's going to be a long summer. We're going to do some meetups. Check out my website. I don't know if it's working. In all seriousness, join the fan club because that way I can communicate with you more often and we'll figure this all out. Thank you to Bob and Mila. If you're still here, please like this episode, share this episode, not this episode. In fact, I may take this episode down. Should not see the light of day. All the other stuff. Thank you. My next show is Tuesday at 6:05 p.m. Thank you.